David, ma come cavolo hai fatto ad imparare l'italiano? Ciao a tutti, benvenuti sul mio canale. Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. In today's video, we are talking about tips for learning a new language. These are tips which have helped me, and hopefully they will help you too. Also in today's video, I have something very special that I want to share with you, and it's something that you might find useful if you're at the beginning of your language learning journey but don't know where to start. Do make sure that you stick around towards the end of the video because I have 2 practical tips that you can start using today to learn Italian. Basta, iniziamo. Let's get started. So the first tip is just get started. I'm a firm believer that language learning is for people of all ages. And at the end of the day, what really counts is how much you put into it. It's like anything, really. The next one is do mistakes. Make mistakes. This is something that nobody likes to do. You know, it's embarrassing, it can be painful, but at the end of the day, making mistakes is something that is necessary in the learning process, in my opinion. I've made mistakes, I make mistakes, and I will continue to make mistakes. Here's an example. So in English, when you are laughing hysterically, we would say that you are laughing so hard that you split your sides. More or less there's an Italian equivalency, but I got it wrong. I said, ridere a crepapalle. Allora, the correct expression in Italian is ridere a crepapelle. And loosely translated, this means that you laugh so hard that you split your skin. I, however, said palle, which means you're... Needless to say, I never made that mistake again. But the point is this. These are the kind of mistakes that you remember. You know, they're a bit embarrassing, but at the end of the day, it's important to be able to laugh at yourself. And if you can do that, then you learn from your mistakes, hopefully. If I had to pick the best solution for learning a new language, it's this. If you can, try and go and live in the country where they speak the language that you want to learn. Now, I realize that not everybody can do what I did, leave your country and go and live in another one. So I get that. But if you can, try at least coming here on vacation, and at least in this way, then you can experience full immersion. Being around it 24/7 and being forced to speak the language, in my opinion, produces real results. Now, once you start living here in Italy, the next best thing is to try and make Italian friends. And this is super helpful because if you can make friends with somebody from Italy, then it gives you the chance to learn about their culture. And once you learn about the culture, then you start learning the language. Because in my opinion, language and culture are interchangeable. One derives from the other. Try to learn as much as you possibly can about the other country's culture. I'll give you an example. I teach English here in Italy, and I have a lot of students who are very good with English. They know the vocabulary, they know the grammar, they know many things in the English language, but their style is still very Italian. Why? Because they have no connection to the target culture. Now, it's not their fault, but that's just the reality of things. As an added bonus, try and become romantically involved with somebody from Italy. Believe me, this really does help out your language abilities. But let's go a few steps back. So, how did I start with the Italian language? Quite simply, I took classes. I took Italian at community college. I took some night courses. I also studied it at university, and then I took a few classes in Florence for 3 summers. Like I went to a language school for foreigners. Taking a class is essential if you want to form the foundation of a language. And the reason why is because they teach you the grammar, the vocabulary, pronunciation. So again, they just give you a good start. So at the start of this video, I said that I had something very special to offer you if you find yourself at the beginning of your language learning journey, and here it is. So earlier this year, I was contacted by the European Cultural Center in New York, and it's an organization that offers online language classes in 12 European languages, and one of them is, of course, Italian. So they offered to do a collaboration, and I said, sure. However, I said that I think it's better if I try a few classes myself just to get an idea of what it's like to take a lesson with EUS, and that's exactly what we did. Now, you're probably thinking, sì, vabbè, okay, you probably took Italian. No. 9. That's not what I did. I actually wanted to take a language that I've been wanting to learn for a very long time, and this was German, Deutsch. So in essence, I took a crash course with them. I did 3 Saturdays, 2 hours apiece, and I learned the basics. Nouns, verbs, pronunciation, articles, just enough to get me started with the German language. And needless to say, I enjoyed my experience with them. I say that because the class atmosphere was really very relaxing. There were only 5 of us, and ironically, the person that reached out to me was also my German teacher, Teresa. Teresa is a German that lives in the United States, and she's also one of the co-founders of the school. I think we all had a good time with Teresa. She was very relaxed, she was patient, We had a few laughs here and there, and it was just an overall positive learning experience. The methodology used during these lessons would be the same in any language, whether you take Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, Norwegian, etc., etc. Now at this point you're probably wondering, what did you learn in these German classes? Okay, here's a small sample and I'm doing my best with the pronunciation. Ich heiße David, ich wohne in Rom und ich komme aus Connecticut. Ich habe eine Tochter, sie heißt Laura und sie ist 16 Monate alt. Laura, ich liebe dich. Now, if you're interested in taking a course with EUS, here are some details. They offer a range of courses which are from beginner to advanced. New classes start periodically throughout the year, so make sure you check their website. The next batch of new classes start in January 2022, and as I said before, class sizes are very small, so there are on average between 2 and 5 students per class. Also, class times are very suitable whether you find yourself in a North American or European time zone. That was great for me, actually. The most popular option is the 10-week course. So this comes at a cost of $279, but everything's included. And you get 10 90-minute classes, a digital course book, and the registration fee is included in the cost. Something in particular that EUS does that I liked is the fact that they offer a free trial lesson in the weeks before the course begins. These trial lessons are offered regularly, so do check the website and see when they're available. Also, if you can't make the free trial lesson, then they will send you a recording of the lesson and you can watch it in your free time. Now, if you are in fact interested in taking a course with EUS, go to the description of this video and I have included a link. But more importantly, if you'd like to receive $50 off, make sure that you use the code DAVID50 when you are at the checkout. When you do that, then the price will be reduced to $50. If by chance you forget to use this code, and I forget things all the time, just make sure that you mention that you found the course via this video and they will apply the discount. Also, in the description of this video, there is a link for a gift card. So Christmas is just around the corner, and if you'd like to give somebody a gift card and if they're interested in taking a course, then do click on the description and you'll find it there. Okay, andiamo avanti. The next tip that I have for you is to simply listen to the language. Listen to Italian any way you can, be it TV, music, movies, whatever. And the idea is to gradually get used to the sound of the language, the accents, the intonation, etc., etc. Next, I would suggest that as you are learning Italian, do try and include things which are in your sphere of interest. For example, if you are interested in politics, then try and follow La Politica Italiana. If you're interested in the stock market, then try and follow La Borsa Italiana. The reason why this is important is that you would be studying something that you already know about. You already have a clear context, but now you're just doing it in a foreign language. This will help, believe me. Do try watching TV series and movies in Italian, but also make sure that these are actually produced in Italy and with Italian actors. And the reason why is because this will give you a more authentic taste of the language and the culture. I, for example, used to watch Un Medico in Famiglia when I was learning Italian. It was very hard at first, and I didn't understand everything, but thanks to the fact that I was watching this on the internet, I was able to stop it, go back, and listen again, and this was very helpful. Should you use subtitles? Yes, actually. I think that's a very good idea. Ideally, it's better if you can listen to Italian and then read the Italian subtitles below, but I realize that when you're in the beginning, this might be very difficult. So maybe in the beginning, you can use your language subtitles, but do make sure that you are listening to Italian. That's the most important thing. Now, if many of you are like me, then your time is very limited. And so you may say, I really have no time to learn a language, but there is a way around that. Ultimately, what you want to do is to try and make the language a part of your life. And the best way to do that is to dedicate minimal 10 minutes per day towards the language. Yeah, it's pretty simple. Just spend a couple minutes listening to a song, reading an article, whatever, as long as you're doing something every single day in Italian. The next one, and this one is particularly difficult for everybody, myself included, but try to not translate. I'm not saying that translation should be discarded completely, but what's more important is you need to learn how the other language expresses themselves. Here's an example. Now, in English, to express my age, I would say that I am 41. I would use the verb to be. In Italian, it's a bit different. They would say, ho 41 anni. I have 41 years. Most important thing to tell yourself is, okay, for them, it makes sense. I don't use the verb have to express my age, but that's irrelevant. Another example would be this. So in English, we would say, I have been to Italy. In Italian, they would say it a little bit differently. They would say, sono stato in Italia. The construction of the phrase is radically different, but again, that's not important. You need to learn exactly how they express a certain idea in the target language. So to reiterate the point, you just need to tell yourself, okay, the way that they write that sentence makes sense to them, and that's all you need to do. Translation should occur only after you have learned how the other half expresses themselves. The exception would be if it's something simple like cat, gatto, done. Music can also be a very powerful tool when you're learning languages. I think music is better for vocabulary, however. There is in fact a better way to learn vocabulary, but I'll get to that in just a moment. Yeah, music is good for learning individual words, but I actually struggle with music, even in English. The reason why is when somebody is singing a song, they don't tend to say the words exactly as they would in everyday life. And I think this is called poetic license. Very often my Italian friends ask me to tell them what they're saying in songs in English, and my response is usually, ma che ne so io. The next one is pronunciation, and I'm really a big advocate of good pronunciation because I think at the beginning, if you have a good grasp of how the words sound and how to say them, then it can mask any difficulties you may have as a beginner. La pronuncia in italiano è importante, soprattutto quando ci sono le doppie. These are particularly difficult if you are an English speaker. Next, let's talk about language learning apps. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of experience with them, but I have heard that they are a good method, in particular if you want to learn vocabulary. So here are some examples of apps which you might find useful if you're learning Italian. The first one is Medium, which is a news and discussion app. The next one is the Apple Podcast app. And yes, podcasts are particularly effective if you are learning a language. There's also Tandem, HelloTalk, and Quizlet. I do in fact have some experience with Quizlet, and I think it's a very good website to learn vocabulary. Something important that I want to mention about language learning apps. While they are good for learning vocabulary, I don't think that they can fully take the place of a course. So if you're at the beginning and you want some formal instruction, take a course. Now, if you are somewhat advanced, or if you are a beginner and just want a challenge with the language, then do what I did. Watch the news. I like watching the news as a language learning method because more or less the context is straightforward, and so odds are you probably already know what they're talking about because you will have seen the same news in your language, but now you're hearing it in Italian. The next tip is speaking. Try to speak Italian as much as you possibly can. This is of course much easier if you are already living in Italy. However, if you are outside of this country and you want to speak it, then do what I did. I used to use a website called meetup.com, and the name is pretty self-explanatory. You meet up with people that have the same interests as you. I used to belong to an Italian meetup group in Connecticut, and we occasionally got together, had some coffee, spoke Italian, and we were both Italians and also non-Italians. It was a pretty cool experience. Try to be naturally curious, and this goes back to making Italian a part of your life. But what I mean is this. When you are in certain situations, always be asking yourself, okay, how do I say that in Italian? How do I express this idea? And then when you get a chance, go and check. Being in specific situations definitely helps you to learn the language. I'll give you an example. I remember when I was in Salerno and I was driving with a friend, and the guy in front of us did not use his blinker, directional. And my friend said, "Nieta freccia," which in Neapolitan means use your blinker. I never forgot that. If you're a beginner, then I recommend staying away from comedy because comedy, in my opinion, is more for the advanced levels. Comedy is strictly intertwined with the culture that it represents. Alright, so here are the bonus tips that I was talking about at the beginning of the video. If you'd like to start learning Italian immediately, today, then simply put your phone in the target language. That's it. This makes sense because odds are you're probably already familiar with the layout of your phone and the words that they use in your phone. So for example, if you look at the app which has a little sun in it, then it says meteo. Oh, okay, weather. The same with the one with the calculator. This is calcolatrice. Oh, this must be calculator. The other practical tip that I have for you is this one. Use Post-its around your house. Here's an example. I think this is extremely effective because every time you pass by something in your house, you are constantly seeing that new word, and eventually it will sink in because you're seeing this in a very specific context. So for this week's frase italiana della settimana, here's what you can use. If you're at the beginning and you want to tell somebody that you are learning Italian, say it this way. Sto imparando l'italiano. As a matter of fact, if you are imparando l'italiano, write that in the comments below. Sto imparando l'italiano. Grazie. Comment time. So, are you learning a new language? Have you ever been a beginner at learning a new language? And do you have any tips for learning a new language? Let me know in the comments below. I love reading them. Grazie mille per l'attenzione. Ci vediamo alla prossima. Dankeschön. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time. Ciao.